Richard Martinez here, back with this training on communication, communicating to lead and to sell. We already laid the foundation of communication as a message being sent and received as it was sent. And we need to become more effective to the point where even if they're bad listeners, if they're rebels, if they're distracted and they're not really listening, you're so good at communicating that you're gonna get their attention and they're gonna listen, right? So that's what we're talking about. So this is communication, but now we wanna get more specific here. I wanna share with you how to talk to different types of people because, man, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed in this last 17 years where I'm traveling that people are very different, but yet a lot of things are the same. Now, we need to first understand that we all have our background, right? So when we're communicating with people, we need to understand that they have a different grid. They have a different filter of what they see things as, and that affects communication. That affects how they hear, that affects how they talk, it affects their opinions, how they kind of digest what you shared with them, because it goes through this like grid, this filter, this gauntlet of belief systems and values and experiences that they have from their past. So for an example, for me, because some people have a past where they've been hurt or abused or they've experienced or seen things to where they just have these triggers, these buttons, where if somebody does or says something or looks like or kind of makes them feel that thing again, it kind of scares them like they're going to get hurt again. It reminds them of something in the past. A lot of times we create these defense mechanisms to protect us from getting hurt like that again. So when we start to feel that, we'll either close up and flight, or we'll rise up and want to fight, because we want to protect ourselves from getting hurt again. So a lot of people that we're dealing with, that we're communicating with, that we're working with, that we're leading, that we're having a family with, they have these triggers, they have these buttons because of past experiences, because of hurts and pains that they haven't dealt with, that they haven't healed. So it's a little sensitive there. So when you or somebody else starts to talk in a way or says something or does something that reminds them of that pain, it makes them defensive and fight or flight mechanism comes in. So if we don't understand this stuff, we're gonna get offended, we're gonna get confused when it comes to communicating to different personalities. We're gonna take it personal, it's just not gonna help. So we need to understand that people have different backgrounds. They have different buttons, that have different triggers that they are dealing with just like you. Okay, so we need to understand that and understand that because of their upbringing, because of their two parents, because of the influence that they have developed a certain type of personality. So if we begin to see and identify the different types of personalities, it helps us to know how to approach them, how to talk to them, what words to say, what volume, what kind of face, what kind of body language. Now, all of a sudden, your communication gets very effective because you know who you're talking to. So you know how to talk to them. Now you become a better leader. Now you become better in sales because you know this person and their triggers, their buttons, and you know how to influence them. So personalities, okay? So we all have different types of personalities because of the background, because of these beliefs and values, and this kind of forms us of who we are today, right? So imagine this, we're talking to all these people. Whether it's in your workplace, in your office, on your team, in your home, out in public, when you're dealing with people, they all have their story that has kind of developed them and who they are today, and they have their own personality, their own beliefs, and their own values. So you having yours and them having theirs coming into communication, into being around each other in your space, a lot of times you're gonna start to find things that you don't agree on. You're gonna start to find differences, right? And that can cause some friction, that can cause some ching ching, some little, sparks on there. But if we don't understand it, we're gonna take it personal and it starts to get a little bit more rough. But if we understand it, we can see past it, not get bothered by it, or not even get hurt by people. This will make you, when you understand that people have a past, when they come to you and they're and they're just mad, grumpy, negative people, instead of being hurt by them, now you hurt for them because you're like, damn, that sucks for them. They must be hurting. They must have their shit, they must have things in their past that they're just, and it comes that sucks for them. So now all of a sudden, instead of being hurt by them, oh, poor me, it's damn, poor them. Instead of getting on your knees and praying for yourself, you're praying for them. because they're the ones that are broken, and broken people break others, hurt people hurt others. So this is a good thing to understand when you're communicating to people, whether it's in your family, whether it's in out in the marketplace, when you're selling to people, when you get those customers that are freaking annoying, that are difficult, right? You know where they're coming from. You know that they have brokenness in their past. So now all of a sudden you're not taking it personal, and you have more empathy, more compassion, and you can communicate from that place in a better state, and you can be more influential, better leader, and you can still sell even to a difficult customer, difficult client, difficult people, right? So when we understand this, again, it positions us to be powerful because we have understanding that they're just reacting because of something else, not because of me. So now I can not take it personal, but still see past it and go for the influence and go for the lead, okay? So let's talk about this now. When it comes to your personalities, there's two main groups. Okay, there is the inward and the outward personalities. The introverted, and the extroverted, right? Like you can tell, right? I know for you, I don't even need to go on a whole deep training and teaching to share with you like what introverted and what extroverted is, what an inward person looks like, or what an outward person looks like. I think you can know, right? So like, how would an inward person walk? How would they walk? You know, a little bit more chest in, shoulders, head down, maybe not high contact, a little bit slower. They have lower and slower energy, right? When you have an outward person, you can, the chest is out, shoulders back, head up, eye contact. And there's different types of higher energy, outward energy, whether it's very serious and boom, or that's both outward personalities, right? There's an inward one of like, and then there's an inward of like, both inward, both outward, but there's more specific differences when it comes to personalities. But there's two main groups, the inward and the outward, the extroverted and the introverted. So when we understand this, it helps us to better talk to people, because we're talking about communication, right? So if you are an outward person, if you're very extroverted, and you're talking to an introverted person, and you come with all this freaking energy, right? And all this volume and all this body language, you're like, hey, what's up? Like, that's what it looks like to them, right? Like you have an introverted person, and they're just like minding their own business, trying to keep the peace, calm, cool, and collected, don't want any problems, don't want to create any conflict. And then here comes an outward extroverted person, slow motion to them, right? Like, hi, Richard. Nice to see you. And for them, it's like, it's a lot of energy, and it can create a lot of disconnect. It can scare them. It can be too much for them. If you just come at a high energy and at a very low energy, it creates a disconnect. It doesn't create connection. It doesn't create trust and influence. And that's not going to help with leadership and sales, right? So we want to kind of meet them where they are. So, or how about the other way around? Let's say, you have somebody who's very introverted going to somebody who's very extroverted, right? So you have this person who just, I want to have fun. Who's going to be my friend today, right? And they're just excited. And then you have this introverted person that's going to go talk to them, communicate, or even lead them. You're like, hey, how you doing, Richard? Can we talk? And then this extroverted person already is going to be like, in their head, yeah, sure. But in their head, they're like, oh, this is going to be freaking boring. Did you see how he asked if we could talk? Like, even that already is creating disconnect, and you're missing on influence. You're missing out on some leadership right there. So just that understanding, are they introverted or they extroverted, just sets you up for success. So this is the first part. When you want to influence, when you want to sell, this is the first thing that you want to do is ask this question. There's 3 steps to this, okay? In this part of the communication for personalities. So the first thing you need to do is ask a question. Now, this is one of the most important things you need to do, because asking yourself this question sets yourself up to find the answer. When you think about like what thinking is, what is thinking? Your thinking is important, right? Your mindset, how you think sets up your future. So your thinking is important. But what is thinking? Thinking is just asking yourself a question and then answering it. You ask yourself a question and then you answer it. So if you want to have better thinking, which creates better doing and a better life, you need to ask yourself better questions, right? So here is a question that if you ask yourself every time you're going to meet somebody, every time, whether it's on the phone or you're going to text them or you're going to meet them, like, I want you to ask this question. Are they inward or are they outward? If you ask this question, if you put that in your brain, it's like putting Google, right? Like if you put in Google, ring, right? Ring. All kinds of stuff of rings, different kind of rings will come up. It'll bring up all the information because you asked. Same thing with your brain. It's not going to bring up the information unless you ask. So ask yourself, when you're going to meet somebody, you have a client coming into your office, right? Start to read them and ask your brain to start to look for information by saying, hey, is this person inward or outward? Are they introverted or are they extroverted? Now my brain's going to start to search, right? Because I asked. And now I'm going to start to look, how they walk, how they talk, how they dress, their volume, how they stand, how they sit. Because I asked myself the question, because I asked, now I'm looking and I will find what I seek. Whatever I seek, I will find, right? So now, because I know, ask inward or outward, you're going to be able to identify quick. I mean, even if they're your clients, picture this, you're in your office, like if you have your office, right? And you can see outside the window and you have a client coming out and they park. If you just watch how they open the door and how they step out and close the door, if you just watch that, asking yourself this question, are they inward or outward? You'll be able to identify if they're inward or outward just how they stepped out and closed the door. You'll be able to identify that. You'll be able to identify how they walk. Simple little things you can see, okay, this person's more inward or this person's more outward. Now, this is why it's important, because you go to the second part, which is to mirror and match. If I know that this person's more outward, I'm going to mirror and match them, even though I'm an introverted person. But what does that mean? Mirror and match. What does a mirror do? Like what this camera is doing, right? Like it's just reflecting. It's just reflecting what I'm doing, right? It's mirroring my body language. Now, when I say match, I mean the energy. I mean the attitude that you bring. Mirror their body language and match their energy. So let's go back to that question. So you have somebody, whether it's, let's say it's your partner, your spouse, right? Or your kid. They're coming up, even though you know them very well, just ask your brain, because this is the power. Tell your brain to pull up the information, because that's going to set you up to do the number 2. So even if your child's coming up, ask inward or outward. Just make it a habit. Every time somebody's coming, every time they're on the phone, ask, are they inward or outward? So that your brain can seek, and it will seek. Whatever it seeks, it will find, right? So now I begin to ask, are they inward or outward? I'll be able to identify very quick, because you can identify how they walk, how they sit, how they stand, how they talk, the volume. You can identify if they're inward or outward. You just have to ask the question. Common sense is not common practice because we don't apply it. Common sense, yes, you know how to identify somebody's inward or outward, but it's not always common practice because you don't ask yourself the question. So all you need to do, I'm telling you, asking yourself this one question every time you meet somebody will change your freaking life. This is a game changer. This sets you up to be a better leader, a better salesperson, a better human being. This helps you to be a better lover. It will change the game for you if you ask this one simple question. Is this person inward or are they outward? Because now you can do number 2, which is to mirror and match. So if they come in, if you're an introvert, like it doesn't even matter if you're inward or outward at this point, because it's all about them, right? It's all about them. So you see them coming, introverted person, they're more come, and let's say you have a higher energy, you need to bring yours down. Bring your energy to meet them. Mirror and match. Mirror the body language. If they're down, then you be more down and calm. If they're more like what's up, then you be more like what's up, right? Mirror and match. Body language and the energy. What does this do? Already, it makes them feel comfortable around you. Why? So remember, we're talking about communication and communicating to lead and to sell. So if you want to lead them and you want to sell to them, they need to have some level of trust. They need to feel a little bit comfortable with you to be able to, go with you or to buy from you, right? To make a decision because of you. So when we understand this one thing, who do you trust the most? Let me ask you, who do you trust the most? Who do you feel comfortable around the most? Yourself. You trust, don't lie, come on. You trust yourself the most. I trust myself the most. I feel most comfortable around myself because I know what's going on in here most of the time. But with other people, you don't know, so you can have that suspicion and you can have that kind of like, I don't know, right? But when you feel most comfortable around yourself, when we understand this key, because this is key, when you understand that people feel most comfortable around themselves, they trust themselves the most, what should we do? When we meet them, we create a space and an environment that's familiar to them, that feels like them. That's why you mirror and match. You see, if they come in all woo, then I'm gonna be woo, and they're gonna be like, Richard, you're cool, because I remind them of them, right? So they feel familiar, they feel safe because I'm like them. And their defenses are gonna go down. They're gonna be more open to me. They're gonna like me more, right? Because I'm like them. They're gonna trust me faster. So just because I asked that question, now this first 10, 15 seconds of our conversation, I'm building trust fast because they feel safe. So that's the power of mirror and matching, because you feel like them, right? So they trust themselves, they feel most familiar around themselves. So make them feel comfortable by mirror and matching. Now, as you get closer to them, so already you're creating influence, already you're starting to have conversation, you're engaging them because they feel safe. But now that you're getting closer and having more conversation, you can get more detailed in what you look for. Here's another question now. What animal are they? What do you mean, what animal? See, now I want you to speak to their animal. I'm not talking about animal spirits. See, when I teach personalities, I teach them in animal form to help us to remember them. So there's 4 different personalities, and there's 2 personalities in each category. There's 2 personalities in the outward personality, and there's 2 personalities in the inward personality. Outward personality, you have the rhino and the lovebird, 2 animals that I'm going to share as far as personality goes. The rhino and the lovebird in the outward extroverted type of people. Now, how about the introverted? The inward people. We have the owl and the sheep. The owl and the sheep. And I'm going to explain to you what these personalities are, because now we can be more specific, more detailed, more strategic in how we mirror and match them. Now they're going to feel even more comfortable. Now they're going to feel like we're even more like them. They're going to trust us even more. And again, we're talking about communicating to lead and to sell. So if you understand their personality and you meet them where they are, they're going to trust you faster, and boom, you can lead and you sell. I'm telling you, this is life changing. This is a game changer when it comes to your life and your business, your family. If you do this, ask the question, are they inward or outward? Mirror and match. Now we get into number 3, which is to speak to their animal. Okay, so let's talk about the outward extroverted personalities first. So you ask the question, are they inward or outward? You can see how they talk, how they walk, their volume, how they're dressed, that they're an outward extroverted person. So you're like, boom, mirror and match, right? You match them. Now, as you're talking, you're gonna be able to see some things. You're gonna see some more details because you're closer, or you're having a little bit more time with them, right? So if they're an extroverted person, they're gonna be either a rhino or a lovebird. And the rhino is more goal-oriented, the lovebird is more people-oriented. There's one of each in both categories. In the inward, the owl is the more goal-oriented and the sheep is more people-oriented, okay? So outward personality, we have the outward personality, we have the rhino and the lovebird, So let's talk about the rhino first. Picture a rhino in your mind right now, just see it. Right? What does that rhino look like? This is like, boom, right? It's strong, it's confident, it has a presence about it, right? Like if a rhino came up in here right now, I'd be like, oh, it doesn't need to say anything or do anything or try to convince me that it's powerful. Like it just is, right? So this type of personality is the same way. It has a presence about them. They have this power, this confidence. Like they don't need to say anything or do anything. They're just there, and you can just feel a level of power and presence in them. And something else, when you think about a rhino, when you picture a rhino, what do they have right here in front? They have this like horn, right? They have a horn that's like, what is this for? It's not to go like backwards like this, right? Their horn is not to go backwards. Their horn is to go forward, and not just go forward, but they want to charge forward. And not just charge forward, but they want to be in charge as they're charging forward. The same thing with this rhino personality. The rhino personalities are born leaders. They're very competitive. They don't like to go backwards. They want to go forward. And they don't want to just go forward. They want to hurry up and go forward. They want it today, right? They want it yesterday. Let's go. They want to go and get there fast, and not only get there fast and charge there, but they want to be in charge as they're going. These are the ones who want to be in charge. Like even as a child, the rhino personality wants to be in charge, even if it's the freaking goldfish, right? They want to be in charge of something. They're very competitive. They want to win. They don't do things just for fun. They do things with purpose, on purpose. They're very direct, very confident. And because of that, they come off as very harsh, egotistic, a know-it-all, right? They come off as like, ugh, like I don't really want to be around them. Those type A type of people. Those are the ones who are very successful. Usually they know what they want. Right? They're very go-getters, they're risk takers, they're all about action and results. That's the rhino personality. Then you have the lovebird. This is the other outward personality, and we have to approach them differently, and I'm gonna tell you how to do that, but let's talk about the lovebird now. So when you picture a lovebird, what do you see? Like for me, I see a lovebird on like a telephone wire, right? Just kind of there, all colorful and just, where should I fly today? Like, who's some other birds that I can go hang out with, right? These are the social butterfly type of people. These are the ones who are like the cheerleaders, the center of attention, giving the microphone, center of the stage. Like these are the ones who laugh loudest, talk the loudest. These are the ones who are very confident. They're very charming. They're social. Everybody is their friend, right? It's not like, oh, like they go into a room, it's all strangers. It's not a stranger to them because they just go in there and they just talk easily to everybody. They're very charming, charismatic, right? They can be very influential because of that. Now, in the bad parts, they can be very disorganized and lack follow through and, not get things done like all the way to the end because they get bored. They want fun, friends, and freedom. The lovebird personality, that's what they value. Fun, friends, and freedom. So if they're doing the same thing over and over and over, it's just not fun anymore and they don't want to do it. They lose inspiration and they end up quitting, right? So outward personality, we have the rhino and the lovebird. Two of the outward personalities, and we can identify them very easy by the way they talk, by the way they dress, by the way they walk. The rhino personality is more goal-oriented, right? So they're just, I'm going to get to the place where I'm walking. The lovebird personality is like, I'm going to get there, but I'm going to have fun on the way, right? Fun, friends, and freedom. So it's like, looking around. Oh, butterfly. Oh, look at that, right? But they're going to go there, right? So both, even how they walk, how they talk, the rhino is more concise, direct. Lovebird, fun, talking, wants to talk about themselves, share stories, right? So very easy to identify. So all you need to do is mirror and match them, right? And now that you know, like, okay, I know their animal now. Now I'm closer. I'm mirror and matching. Now I can see, oh, this is definitely a lovebird. They're just so social. They want to talk. So what do you need to do? Become more of a lovebird for a little bit. Be their friend. Be their friend. Have more expression on your face, on your body language, because otherwise, if you're just inward and just talking to them like this, they're gonna be like, yeah, so, all right, cool. All right, see you later. And you're gonna lose influence over them because you're freaking boring, right? Don't be so boring with them. Even though you're normally introverted, that's okay. I'm normally introverted, but I know if I'm introverted here, you're gonna be freaking bored and you're, what the heck is Richard talking about? No, we need to animate ourselves, right? We need to share emotion with the lovebird. Now, when you're talking to a rhino, you want to be very direct, strong, to the point, confident, right? For a rhino, you become a rhino. You talk about results. You talk about goals. You don't talk about a bunch of explaining stuff and all the details. You get straight to the point. For a rhino. So even how you move, see, even my tone has changed. It's just boom. What's up? Right? It's a different tone, it's a different movement, but you match them because it's familiar to them. They're gonna like it. They're gonna trust it. They're gonna like you faster. You create more influence. You can use that for sales or for leadership. Okay. So now, what about the inward personality? So that's the outward. We have the rhino and the lovebird. You can identify them. You mirror and match them, and now you use even key words. You talk about fun. You talk about friends. You talk about doing things. Tying whatever your product and services or whatever you want to influence them to do, tying it to what's important to them. That's your key. So if you're selling a product and you're talking to a rhino, you're going to be talking about the results, and it's going to help them to win. It's going to help them to produce. It's going to create, help them to reach their goals, right? But when you're talking to a lovebird, you want to change it up a little bit. You want to share man, this is going to help you to have so much more fun. Right? You have to show them how your product and service is going to create more fun, friends, and freedom for them somehow. right? You got to tie it to that. So this is why it helps you to identify their personality, because when you know their personality, you know what's important to them. You know what they don't like, you know what they fear, you know what they have their goals, what makes them excited. So now, not only are you going to mirror and match them with this, but now you're using keywords, and the conversation that you're talking about is something that's important to them. So it just makes it so much easier, because you made them feel comfortable, and you're talking about something that they love to talk about. It's a win, guys, I'm telling you. So how about the inward personalities? Okay, so the same thing. We got to identify them by asking the question, are they inward or outward? Okay, now they're inward. What are the two personalities? We got the owl and the sheep. The owl and the sheep personalities are the inward personalities. So let's think about the sheep real quick. What do you see when you see a sheep? Usually they're not by themselves, right? They're kind of like in a flock. And the same thing with this type of personality. This personality is a people personality. This is the people-oriented. The owl is the goal-oriented. So we have the sheep right here, and you see them in flocks, just like a person. They're usually around people, not because they're social, but because they feel safer around people and they value connection. So the sheep are more calm, cool, and collected. When you think about the sheep, they're just kind of there. They're calm, cool, and collected, right? And if there's like they're more sensitive, more afraid. And the same thing with this type of personality. They're very calm, cool, and collected. They have the poker face. So they're just like, Richard, I'm super excited today to be working with you. And, I'm real happy to be here, and we're going to be doing some great things, right? That they don't share a lot of emotion there, or to say they're mad. You know what, Richard? I'm really mad. I'm really disappointed in these things that you did. And they're just very calm, cool, and collected. It's the poker face. And you can identify them that way. So when you're talking to them, you're not going to be all like, all animated or all like, strong, because you're going to scare them away, right? The sheep personality, they value connection. They value relationship. They don't want to threaten that. They don't want conflict. They don't want to fight. They're very loyal, very empathetic, very compassionate, very supportive, very loving. Like, to really get them mad, you have to be a really freaking jerk to get them mad, because they're just that calm, cool, and collected. So when you're talking to them, bring it down. Be kind. Don't rush them. Don't push them. Be more softer. Talk about family, because they value family. So you can hear my tone right now, right? Like, this is where you talk more with more compassion. Like family member, like they're your aunt or your uncle, your tío or your tía, like that. Now you're talking to somebody who's your family that you care about, right? So with them, you want to talk about that way. But if you talk about like that to a lovebird, they're going to get bored. If you talk like that to a rhino, they're going to be like, what the heck? I'm not here to be your friend. Just freaking sell this to me, or just let's just make this happen, right? So it's really important to see their personalities, because otherwise you come across in a way that breaks connection. Like, I've dealt with a lot of salespeople or customer service, where they feel like customer service is really important. Yes, it is, right? So let me ask you this way. What would you say good customer service is? What would you say? Like, when somebody answers the phone or when they're around, like, what would you say? What kind of energy, what kind of attitude that somebody needs to have to bring good customer service, good quality customer service? They have to be positive, right? Enthusiastic, right? Like, they're happy, they're optimistic, they have a smile. Would you say that's good customer service? Well, let's think. How would it be if you are a salesperson, or you want to lead somebody who is a rhino, and you are naturally a lovebird, and you understand that, hey, I'm gonna be nice and I wanna be, excited and positive, because that's good customer service. So a rhino comes in who doesn't like all that emotion, who doesn't like to be friends, who just wants to get it done. And here you are thinking, oh, hey, how are you doing, Mr. Rhino? Oh, I got really good shoes there. Those are really nice. Come on in. Like, oh, how was your weekend? And you think you're doing good customer service, but you're just freaking irritating them. Just being honest. Come on. At this point, they're just, oh yeah, they're going to be nice, but they're just like, oh, I hope this doesn't take long. I hope they don't keep talking, because I don't want to waste my time here. Like, rhinos don't want to be there for a long time. And if you just keep talking and talking and talking, they're not going to want to go back. They're going to leave. They're not going to send referrals. Like, it just breaks connection. It breaks influence, because you're not meeting them where they are. Have you ever heard of something called the Golden Rule, where it says to treat others how you would want to be treated? to treat others how you would want to be treated. For me, I think that's selfish. Why would I make it all about me? What if they don't want to be treated like me? What if I'm very affectionate and I'm like, hey, very touchy, and I go do that to them and they have a background where they don't like it and it breaks connection? What if for me, I like to be very expressive and like, yeah, I'm loud, and for them, they've been yelled at all their life and they don't want loud people around them. You know, so it's not about me. It's meeting them where they are. It's treating people, it's not treating people how I want to be treated, it's treating people how they want to be treated. That's where you create influence. That's where you can sell. That's where they feel understood. That's where you create, leadership right there. When you start to communicate in a way where you're connecting to them in an inward or outward way, where you're mirror and matching them with your body language and the energy that you're bringing, where you're speaking straight to their animal, right? Straight to their personality and what's most important to them. All that has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. And that's the power of communication. That's how we become a better leader. That's how we become better in sales, because it's about them. We know what's going to move them emotionally, what's going to be the leverage that we have for them to lead them, to get them to be influenced to make a decision, right? So this is communicating to the inward and outward personalities, and then getting more specific. Is this a rhino? Is this a lovebird? Is this an owl? Is this a sheep, right? Because the owl, what does the owl want? The owl says, who, right? The who, what, when, where, why, how. Like the owl personality wants to know all the information, all the details. They're the perfectionists. They want to do things right. They want accuracy. They want truth, right? So because of that, they can even procrastinate and be indecisive because they just want it perfect, right? So when you're talking to an owl personality, you want to give them more information. You want to give them more details because that's important to them. But if you're not even thinking, what personality are they? Are they inward or outward? If you're not even thinking that, you're not going to meet them where they are. And you're going to lose influence. You're going to lose leadership. You're going to lose money. You're going to leave money on the table right there. So here's the call to action for this part right here. Okay? All this, I want you to remember one thing. Ask the question. This is the game changer question. Are they inward or are they outward? Because once you ask yourself that, everything else comes into place, because you will find what you seek. If you ask your brain, are they inward or outward, you're going to look for it. You're going to find it fast, and you're going to know to mirror and match, right? Where you mirror and match them. And then as you're mirror and matching them, you're going to find out what their animal is. And now you can speak more intentionally, more specifically. And this helps you to create more influence for your leadership and your sales. So what do? Ask the question. Are they inward or are they outward? Say it again. Are they inward or are they outward? That's what you have to do. Ask the question.